Well, welcome to another episode of Titan PI TV, where we're looking at the inside workings of a live operational investigation agency, that being here, Titan in Derby. Welcome, I'm your host, Simon Henson, and Managing Director of Titan Private Investigation Limited. In these short, informative episodes, we want to ask commonly asked questions by prospective clients. We want to tell you a little about the industry, but not giving too much away. Today's short episode is looking into international surveillance investigations. So when I first entered the private investigation industry from the police, I had to earn my name. I had to become that go-to person. And the only way you can do that is by working for numerous companies who were established at the time. So I worked as a subcontractor for these companies, and I worked all over the world. So from memory, I've worked in India, Dubai, Kenya, Hong Kong, Singapore, and most of Europe. Now Titan's grown, I am one of those, or run one of those established companies who provide that work. So today I want to briefly discuss the immense amount of planning and preparation which goes into an international surveillance investigation. So let's start at the very start. First of all, we need to choose our team. We need to choose the operatives who are going to fit in the country where we are working. That might be looking at ethnicity. It might be looking at experience. It might be someone that's got a knowledge of the country which we are going to be working in. Second part, we need to get our operatives, once we've selected them, to the country of origin. So ideally they are going on separate flights from separate airports on separate days, and they will be flying into the country of origin, or the destination country, in different airports, different times, different days. Once we've got them there, we need to look at accommodation. We don't want, like we fly them out separately on different days, we don't want association. It's exactly the same once they're there. We've gone through the efforts of all leaving from different airports on different days and landing at different airports within the country. We then don't want them associating on the task. So they will all be in different accommodation, whether that be hotels, Airbnbs, hostels, etc. But they will not be associating on the task. Once we're there, we want to start doing our recce's. We are most likely going to need vehicles for this, depending on the deployment type. So vehicles can be an issue. Obviously, like in the UK, we want them to be a non-garish colour. We want there to be plenty of them, so a vehicle which is common on the roads in the country which we're going to. Ideally, we would like some privacy glass in the back, so that we can't be seen if we are in the back on static observations. However, this can be an issue at certain countries which we've gone to. For example, some countries, if you hire a vehicle, you hire it with a driver. We don't want a driver. Some countries, the hire vehicles will be tracked. We don't want our movement GPS tracked. If this is the case, we need a fixer. So someone that can arrange the vehicles in those countries where they're heavily restricted, so that we can hire them and drive them legally, but we can drive them ourselves. The next thing is communication. So SIM cards. How do we phone in? How do we speak to the other operatives? So we need to get SIM cards. In the UK, I still find it completely mind-baffling, the fact that we can go to a supermarket, a corner shop, whatever. We can buy a SIM card cash, which is not traceable. We can then take that SIM card away and we do not have to register it. It can be as a pay-as-you-go, unregistered SIM card. We can then ring people up, cause menace, etc., and it will never come back to us, other than maybe some CCTV in the shop. European countries, certainly non-UK countries, usually you have to show identification, whether that be a passport or a driving licence, but a formal official document. That SIM card will then be registered in your name before it's given to you. Obviously, we don't want SIM cards registered to us in the country we are in. If that is the case, once again, we need a fixer. So before we leave the country, we need to make sure that not only the vehicles are sorted for us, but also the SIM cards are sorted for us, because we don't want to have our name and identification down to that particular SIM card. Next thing we need to look at is communications between one another whilst we're actually on the surveillance. We don't want, well, it's not particularly professional, is it, to have an open telephone on a normal call to multiple users. what we use is an app which turns our mobile phone into a two-way radio. So an app that would do that would be Zello, for example. This enables us to talk to the operatives, and we use it as a walkie-talkie or a radio. So that's radio sorted. Next thing we need to think about is how we're going to talk to one another on text messages, for example. We don't really want to use WhatsApp because it's not particularly secure. We certainly don't want to be using text messages because they can all be recovered. So ideally we want to be using a secure app. So an example of that would be Threema, probably the most secure app I'm aware of, and deletable on a day-to-day basis. Or you've got things like Telegram or Signal. So the final point I really want to discuss without giving too much away is your team makeup. So it might be, if we're working in India, for example, we need to have individuals as operatives who have an Indian skin colour. The issue with that is southern India is very dark and Mumbai on the west coast is fairly light skinned. So we need to get the right colour if we are using different ethnicities as the operatives. I've certainly been on task before where it hasn't been possible to get the experience and the ethnicities correct. So we have factored all this in, and we have hired former military personnel who are the correct skin colour for the area that we are working in. We have then set aside the first week to give them some basic surveillance training. They would then sit in the front of the vehicle, and we would be sort of the operational commanders of that vehicle, however many operatives we take out, in the back of the vehicle behind the privacy glass. We would also then be instructing them if we need them to get out on foot and do surveillance, and we would be remaining behind the privacy glass in the back of the vehicle. So that's generally how we work international surveillance operations. So do you have an international investigation, whether that be surveillance or other? If so, Titan are experienced in this field and we are more than happy to talk to you. It might be that you're listening to this and you think, I could do this, or I want a bit of this, and you find it exciting. If that is the case, then please look at our training pages. Our surveillance training courses are ideal to be able to train individuals to enter this industry. We would then develop you further through our Grow Student Aftercare program. Details are all on the website in regards to that. So I don't want to go on. Thank you for listening. This is another episode of Titan PI TV. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please give us a thumbs up. If you don't want to miss further episodes, then please subscribe to the channel. And until then, see you soon.